Most people today have habits all fucked up and they cannot master it. And I'm gonna break down exactly how you can get rid of your bad habits and build new ones in a sustainable way. The reality is that most people kind of know what they should be doing when it comes to training, sleeping, eating, whatever it is. They usually have a good idea, if I want some muscle, do some press ups, do some sit ups, and if I want to lose a bit of weight, I should probably eat some healthier foods. The basics are understood. And even if they're not, information is not the problem in 2025. You have things like ChatGPT, you've got Cursor, you've got Google, you've got social media, you've got YouTube, you've got a wealth of information. So that is not the excuse at all. And then secondly, you have people that associate motivation and habits, or discipline and habits is the same thing. You do not lack motivation. And if you believe you're someone who lacks motivation, this is not the case. And if you believe you're someone who needs to be mega disciplined and have everything already figured out, this is not the case either. Today, I'm going to break down exactly how you can build proper habits. And we'll start by going into what good habits are, what bad habits are, how they're formed, things like that. So most people think that habits are about motivation and discipline, and that the people with the best habits just have, immeasurable amounts of motivation, or they are just these super dedicated, super disciplined individuals. And that is not the case at all. Habits has got nothing to do with motivation and nothing to do with discipline, more often than not. Sometimes these things can be a factor. Some days I'm mega motivated to go to the gym, but habits are really systems that allow you to operate the same on your best days as your worst days. So to think that discipline and motivation are the staple of habit building, they're not. So completely erase that from your mind. Because ultimately, habits are actually automatic things. They are not these conscious decisions you're making, at least most of the time. It is not it's not your conscious decision to pick up your phone and look at it 152 times in a day on average, right? You sometimes habitually wake up and just instantly look in your phone. That, more often than not, is not a habit. More often than not, that is a habit and it's not a conscious decision. So then with that covered, how are these habits, good or bad? How are they formed? Well, there are three things that make up a habit. You have the trigger, you have the behavior, and then you have the reward. And those apply to both good habits and bad habits alike. Your brain is a pattern recognition machine, and it knows how to get rewards really easily if you let it and if you train it to be that way. So let me explain. When you have a trigger, right, something is evoking a response, whether that's emotional, whether that's a physical response, something is evoking a response in your body or your mind to create a behavior or to say, hey, do this thing. And the reason that behavior is done in the first place is to get the reward. So how can you apply that to a specific habit? Let's take masturbation, because I think this is the easiest example to use. So you get your stimulus, you get aroused, you get horny, and that is your trigger. And from your trigger, you have your behavioral response. So this applies to both good and bad habits, like I said before. So you have your behavioral response. Now the bad behavioral response would be obviously to go and watch porn and masturbate. And what happens at the end of that? You get the reward, which is dopamine. That is a bad habit, for example. That's a completely bad habit. Now, let's take the same example. You get this trigger, you get this stimulus, you're like, hey, I'm horny, I have this drive, I have this urge, and it's a healthy urge. It's completely normal to be, horny as a man. The question, or the bad thing, is when you go and masturbate. So what should you do, or what could you do alternatively? Well, the more good thing to do would be to maybe go outside, touch a bit of grass, maybe go speak to that girl, maybe spark up a conversation, go on a date. You enjoy her company, and if she's a good girl, date her, and if you date her, you get the reward later down the line. And that's where the biggest difference occurs with good habits and bad habits. You see, dopamine comes from anticipation and not pleasure. So when you have a bad habit, these are so much more easy to form for three reasons, right? And they're actually the inverse reasons as to why good habits are hard to form. Well, bad habits usually require very low effort. There is no delay in gratification, so you get instant reward, and it's usually not that hard to get. It's pretty easy. So it's super available. So it's super easy to go and masturbate. It's harder to go and get a date. It's very, very quick and very instant gratification to go and masturbate. It's a bit harder and a bit longer to take a girl out on a date, court them, show them that you're a cool person, and then later get the reward. And yeah, takes longer to get the reward. The other one, instant gratification. And obviously masturbation is really easy, really quick. The other one is very slow, very long. So that is the biggest difference in good habits versus bad habits. Usually it's the delayed gratification. Now, we know, or you should know by now, you should have been taught this, that delayed gratification is a much healthier, much more sustainable source of dopamine for your brain than quick dopamine. And whether that is doom scrolling, gambling, alcohol, drugs, partying, it doesn't really matter. These things that are, we don't even need to cover them. You know what's good and what's bad. These things often form bad habits, and they form from cheap dopamine because your body is like, wow, this is so much more efficient and so much more easier to get my dopamine from this than it is to go and conquer the world and do all these hard tasks to get, this quality dopamine. And that's what you want to fix, right? Because again, I need to repeat this. You're not broken for wanting cheap dopamine. You're not broken for craving cheap dopamine. Your brain, like your muscles, are just being efficient. Why would your brain, which is an incredibly smart organ, why would it want to put itself under stress, under pressure, to go and get this thing that it can get for free, super cheap, super easy, right? And you can repeat it over and over again. Your brain's just being efficient. You're not being lazy, you're not demotivated, you're not dumb, you're not an idiot. You're just efficient. And that is part of the reason why you can't stick to a habit, right? Because it is so easy. It's so easy to pick the easy option. And part of that comes with negotiation with yourself. You see, people who can't stick to habits often have a habit of saying, I'll start Monday, oh, one day won't hurt, oh, this isn't that bad. You are negotiating with yourself. And all you are doing when you're doing this is saying, hey, look, I'm not totally in control of what I actually want. I'm not in control of my flesh. And if you're not in control of your flesh, you need to ask yourself the deep question, what the fuck are you in control of? If you can't say no to that food, if you can't be like, hey man, I'm not gonna eat bad today, or I'm gonna go to the gym today, if you can't control that, you need to realize that you are, and this is only a temporary thing, you are in control of fuck all. It can change, but as it stands, you are in control of fuck all. And I say this because I actually offended someone back in the day when I was working in a cafe. I used to work in Creams, and this is a dessert shop. Now, a lot of the people there were overweight, and I must have said, I can't remember the exact context, but I said to this person who was overweight, I said, look, people are fat typically because they can't stop putting things in their fucking mouth. And if you can't control, because no one wants to be fat, if you can't control what you put in your own mouth, what the fuck can you control? And I said it exactly like that. It was more of a question. If you can't control what you put in your own fucking mouth, what the fuck can you control? The answer is nothing. You can't control anything. You can't control the people around you. You can't control you can't even control yourself. So fuck trying to control any other metric in your life. It's impossible, right? And with that, you need to understand that you can change, you can make a change, you can get in control, but you have to do it with the right methodology, with the right system. Because otherwise you're just not going to be in a sustainable place. And even if you do make a change, it's fucking temporary. So yes, the reason why you aren't sticking to your habits is yes, you can't control the things you want to control. And it's partly to do with how you identify. In order to build a new habit, you need to have an identity shift. You need to change from one person who does this bad habit to someone who doesn't do it, right? And it's very much easier said than done. So I'm going to break down exactly how you can control your habits and set up new ones. So the number one thing when it comes to building new habits is going to be your environment. And I think this is so underrated when it comes to habit building or just making an improvement in life in general. And the best way to describe it is, what is easier, right? What's an easier scenario to put yourself in? Is it to sit in front of a buffet, trying to resist, eating? Say you're trying to lose weight. Is it to sit in front of a buffet and say, hey, look, I'm just gonna look at all this food and, resist it? Or is it easier to just not have the food there in the first place and not have it tempting you? Right? The answer should be the latter. And that is the exact same way when you tell yourself, hey, I'm gonna have the snacks and the bad foods in the house, yet I'm gonna be on a diet. You are not building an environment conducive to getting the result. And the same thing applies. You should be going to the gym. That is either one, you love it so much and you're always happy to go there, or it's super close and super convenient to get to. Therefore, you remove the strenuous act of going to the gym. If I have to go and travel 2 hours by bus to get to the gym versus go down a flight of stairs and the gym's below my building, which one do you think I'm gonna be more, which one am I gonna stick to for longer? Which one's gonna be easier, more sustainable? It's gonna be the one that is super convenient and super easy. Now, that's not you having bad discipline because you don't wanna go on a bus for 2 hours. That's just being fucking smart. Like, who wants to travel 2 hours in a bus to go to a gym? Fucking no one. By the time you get there, you're like, I don't even want to be here. So it's not that your willpower is shit. It's that your environment is not built to, create your result. So environment is everything. Get rid of the snacks in your house, make the gym super available to get to, and put good food options in your house. These are things that are gonna let your willpower take a back seat, and you're just gonna run a bit more on autopilot. Because if you're fucking starving and the only food you've got available to you is a banana and a steak and some eggs, maybe a bit of sourdough, you're gonna eat that shit. You're not gonna get in your car, go to the shops, buy the shit food, come back. You're not gonna do that. It's far easier to just eat what's inside the house. So that's the first way to build a good habit, right? Environment over willpower. Because self-control is fucking finite, right? Self-control is far harder than building an environment that's conducive. The second way, right? The second way you need to build habits is by starting smaller than your ego wants you to, right? The first time I went running, I didn't go ahead and say, hey, look, I'm gonna start running a marathon. No, I ran 1 kilometer. When I was young, I was fat, I was chubby, I wanted to lose weight. I didn't say, hey, look, I'm gonna run 100 kilometers, I'm gonna be David Goggins. Why? Because I would have got maybe half a kilometer in, been like, fucking hell, I've got to do 41 and a half more of these, and I would have given up. I wouldn't even have made it to the first kilometer. And then when running came about, the next day, when it came to running the next day, I would have been like, fuck that, I don't wanna run. Look at my experience yesterday, I barely made it. I'm not gonna do that shit again. But do you know what happened when I challenged myself, hey look, I'm gonna run 1 kilometer. That's all I'm gonna do. I completed the kilometer. And did you know what happened the next day? I was like, you know what? I done 1 kilometer. I'm gonna try 2 kilometers now. What happened? I was able to run 2 kilometers. And then I was like, hey, next time I run, I'm gonna run 3. And the time after, I run 5. The time after, I run 6. And it was by titrating the habit slowly that I was able to build a habit where I was running multiple times a week and improving across them because I had a reachable goal. I had something to say, hey, look, I'm gonna go for this time because last time I have evidence. Last time I have evidence that I was able to, break the habit, set a new target, set a new PR. So therefore, going on to the next one, I've got confidence. I've got proof I've done it before, therefore I can do it again. And the same applies to you. You're someone who doesn't train, doesn't eat good, doesn't do what's necessary, yet you're gonna jump in the deep end. It makes no fucking sense. Because even if you go into the deep end and you do run that marathon the first day, or you do train 6 days in the first week, weeks 2, 3, and 4, you're not doing that because it's not sustainable. You haven't built up enough evidence and enough of a history, right, to, build that trust with yourself. You're not going to be able to actually do that. And that's a problem I see a lot of people having. They decide to start a fitness journey, or they decide to start a business, and they are concerning themselves with the pennies and the pounds rather than just focusing on the pounds, right? Focusing on the basics, the fundamentals, the simple shit. When I take on a new client, right, and this person has never worked out before, they've never eaten good food before, I don't give them the same plan as me. I don't say, hey, look, I've been training for 8 years. I've got this complex system that works for me. Let me just throw it in your life and expect you to be able to do it. No. You're better off saying, hey, look, first week we train 3 days a week and we cut out sugar. That's simple. That's something you can do. You haven't got to think about the other stuff. Hey, look, don't eat sugar, don't eat sweets, and work out 3 days this week. Everything else doesn't fucking matter. Once you build that habit, once you've said, hey, look, for the last 4 weeks, I've worked out 12 times and I have not touched sugar for the last 4 weeks. I've not eaten a single sweet. Cool. 1 month of, a new habit you've built successfully. Going into the next month, hitting the gym 3 times a week and not eating sugar, it's going to be easier. So what can you do now? You've got more evidence. You've got more bandwidth to take on a new habit. Okay, maybe your new habit is, I'm going to train 4 days and I'm not going to eat takeaway. So now you're training 4 days a week, you're not eating sugar and sweets and chocolate, and now you're not eating takeaway. You do that again for a month. You're starting to get results. You're starting to see your habits having an effect on your life. So you're like, hey, I've got more bandwidth. I've got more evidence that I can do this. Therefore, I'm going to do it again and I'm going to add more. This time I'm going to train 5 days a week. I'm going to do 1 run a week. I'm going to not eat sweets. I'm going to only eat, whole foods. I'm not going to eat takeaway. And there's your new habit built. Now you've got a system of a series of habits, ones that you built up over time, ones you titrated up, not just doing a mega dose of craziness all at once, but you gradually built new habits over time that are now, you're 3 months in, you've got habits that are now going to last you a long time, and you're getting results. That is far better than the approach of, hey, look, I'm going to do everything in my power to have all these habits, 6 days a week of training. I'm going to do 10 marathons a week. Like, doing all of that, it's not fucking sustainable. You're not going to stick to it. And obviously, the goal should be going towards achieving some realm of perfection, if you will. You're never going to be perfect, but that's what you're going for. But trying to be perfect the very first time around is dumb. It's stupid. You wouldn't, for your driving lesson, hey, look, for your first driving lesson, we're gonna put you in a Formula 1 car and we're gonna have you race around the track against Max Verstappen. That's how you're gonna learn how to drive a car. You'd think, fuck me, you're crazy. You'd think, I'm not gonna go to you as a driving instructor because you're just gonna fuck me. You're gonna have me killed. And the same thing, again, it's not as hyperbolic, but the same thing applies to when you start a fitness journey, when you start training. You don't want to be thrown in the deep end because you don't even know what the fuck you're doing, right? And you're probably going to fuck it up. So starting slow, titrating up is always going to be the better option in order to get you building a sustainable habit. And the third and final thing that you need to understand when building a good habit, right? And this sort of ties into the, what I just spoke about. And that is going to be that fact that training and doing hard things is going to get easier and you're going to get better at doing hard things, right? Because the brain has this part of it, like a muscle essentially, that when you do hard things, your brain gets better at doing hard things. And I like to use the example of, say for example, like an immigrant, right? If you have an immigrant in a country, in America, for example, immigrants are far more likely to be successful than a Native American. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's somewhat of a true statistic. And the reason is that when you have someone who's mollycoddled and lived incredibly comfortable, they're not going to want to do the incredibly hard work it is to set up a business and be incredibly successful. They are not. Whereas if you have this person whose entire life has been turmoil and tragedy and hardship, working 16-hour days to build the business is a fucking luxury. They love it. That's just the case. And the same thing applies. If you know about training legs, you've ever trained legs before, everyone hates it. It's hard, it's horrible. But everyone loves chest day, right? Now, training chest can be seen as easy only when you compare it to training legs. But when you isolate chest on its own, it's hard. Training chest is hard. But when you compare it to training legs, fuck me, training chest is lovely. It's the same shit. You build a tolerance. The first time you drank alcohol, you probably got fucked. The first time you ate healthy food, or I don't know, the first time you did this thing, right? It was hard. The first time you did something hard, it was hard. But you build up a tolerance, you build up a resilience to it. And the second time, the third time, the fourth time you do it, it's fucking easy. Do you think I go to the gym now and go, oh man, it's so hard to train? No, I've been going for 8 years. No matter what the session is, whilst it isn't a walk in the park, I know that I've had harder things in my life, right? I've gone into I'd rather go and do a leg session, right, every day, than have to step into the ring with someone who's attempting to fucking smash my face in, right? But in order to have that reference point, you need to do hard things. You need to have a hard challenge, because otherwise, it's not gonna, for the sake of perceptiveness, it's not gonna be perceived as an easy task. And I think it was Floyd Mayweather that used to say, the hard work makes the easy work. All the hard training, all the hardships is gonna make that actual time of performance easy. Simple as that. So once you start to master those 3 things, building an environment that is conducive to habit building, not letting your ego set your habits, but logic instead, having a system that titrates habits in slowly so you improve, and doing hard things even when you don't want to do them. This is the framework to build habits effectively and actually get the results you want. And once you build these habits, it's going to be incorporated in your routine as brushing your teeth or going to bed. It's just going to be something you do. It's going to be your identity. It's going to be who you are. You are not going to be someone who struggles to train or occasionally trains. You are just someone who trains. You are not going to be someone who, I try to eat good food. You are going to be someone who eats good food. You are not going to be someone who, I try to look after my health. You are going to be someone who continuously looks after their health because your habits let you. And if you still need help building habits and you want to have a system that actually works and gets you the results you want in a time frame that you actually desire to achieve it, either DM me the word alpha on Instagram or comment below. Or if you're really eager, you can jump on a call with me where I can break down exactly how I can help you in my link in the description. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and check out my Instagram.